welcome to Watch Mojo. I'm Phoebe and I'm joined by a panel of my wonderful colleagues, and we just finished watching the epic series finale of Game of Thrones. Now, I mean, we all have a little bit of different opinions on this, but Fernando, you look pretty mad, so we're gonna start with you. What did you think of this episode?
I'm pissed. I'm pissed, that's all I can say. I'm very, very pissed.
Okay.
There was only probably like one thing I liked, and the rest is like, can go to hell.
Okay, so
Wow.
you're being very neutral here, which I really appreciate. Nick, what did you think?
I have really mixed feelings, and the dust hasn't settled. I can't figure out how I feel. The ash hasn't settled.
The
I
ash
can't
hasn't
figure out how I feel. So there was, some good things. I really felt the scene where Jon had to kill Daenerys. I was really frustrated that he ended up back on the wall. It's like, it made me think of a Simpsons episode, like everything just resets back to normal. I felt like he deserved better. Although I did think there was maybe a hint that he was gonna join the Free Folk at the end.
I mean, that was like the best part of the episode in my opinion. Sorry, I have to disagree with you. Jon joining, the Free Folk seemed like it came full circle. That's where he was meant to be. All of the power that was thrust upon him throughout the series seemed like he never wanted it. All he ever wanted to be was basically, a wildling.
I know, but I feel like the whole elaborate, secretly Jon is a Targaryen heir to the throne, that whole thing only served as a character motivation to help drive Daenerys crazy, and I thought it was gonna, build in more to the larger plot.
Yeah, that's definitely a common theme in this season. Let's go to Jem. What did you think about this episode?
Hey. Listen, you guys in the comments are gonna hate this, but I was very satisfied by this ending. Because going in, I thought there was absolutely no way that they could come up with a crafted ending that would meet anyone's expectations. But I feel like they managed to tie up all the loose ends. Like everything was nicely, neatly tied up, all those bows in the right places and whatever, and they just kind of ended it. It's over. The story is over. That's it.
But I don't want it to be over.
What's
No!
over though?
Oh no, yes, I want it to be over. After this episode, I'm done.
Okay, Rebecca, what did you think?
So I feel a little punch drunk. I'm a little dazed. I came out of it and I was like, I gotta go away now but anyway, I'm very neutral. I kind of feel like the Bran thing was very surprising, but also
Really?
I was super shocked, and I was
Me too.
but bored.
Yeah.
Shocked and bored. And I was
Like
like,
him.
yeah, sure, yeah, like him. I had his face on when they made that decision. I was like, I don't know. I guess even in the show, the kind of choice of him is it's pissing everybody off, so it'll piss no one off, and that's kind of, I guess, the safe choice for who's going to be on the Iron
Yeah,
Throne.
because they go through all these different sort of political ideas, like, oh, should we have a democracy? Should we have and their whole solution ends up just being, we could just have a magic person who knows everything. And that seems like a very easy solution.
That's a good
I don't
idea.
know what the
It is a-
definition
yeah,
of Deus Ex
ideally.
Machina is, but it feels like this.
It was lazy.
Yeah, you know what? I felt like this episode was just trying to hit every single beat, and it did that. And for you, you found that satisfying. But personally, I found it was kind of just a convenient end to all of the storylines. The Bran thing seemed to come out of absolutely nowhere for me. And going into this episode, the main thing that I wanted to see solved with a neat little bow was the Bran thing, and I got it, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. So I mean, I don't know if I would have ever been satisfied by any sort of ending to this show. I feel kind of emotionally checked out this season because, I mean, everybody knows it's kind of been a little bit disappointing.
I have a thing.
What do you have to say?
The Arya going to the west of the West really feels like the setup to a new show.
It's
I
true.
would-
And
love
in
to
a
see
cheap.
that.
Yes, but it felt so
I don't
cheap.
think. Yeah, I loved it, honestly. I thought, it's
I
the
felt
fate
like-
she deserves. She's an adventurer forever now.
I know, but it just
Forever
felt like,
in our minds.
hey guys, there's gonna be this really exciting new show starring this character that you
I
really
don't
love
think
so
they're gonna
much.
do that.
I don't know.
I don't think they will, but it
They
did
could.
seem like it.
Okay, before we get
And
to
I'd watch it.
that part at the end, let's
Yeah.
go through, the first main event that kind of pissed you off. Daenerys being killed. What do you have to say about that?
I have no words. First of all, she died in the first, 20 minutes
Yeah,
of
about
the
that.
episode. So that really, really, really pissed me off. I thought we were gonna see her die, yes, but not till the end of the episode. Why you guys kill her no. And sorry, but Jon deserved to die. Like Grey Worm should have gone and just like
But why?
Hot
Why?
take.
because he killed Danny.
I disagree.
Khaleesi,
Same.
no.
Danny had to die.
I don't have a reason. I just disagree.
I don't care if you
So
disagree.
after the events of last episode, when Danny, just kind of no mercy for the people of King's Landing, burned everybody to
Yeah.
a crisp, which we
Children.
see in this episode.
Children.
Then should think of the children.
Think of the children.
You still think that Jon should die for killing her and saving all the people of Westeros?
He didn't save
Six Kingdoms?
anybody.
Even Drogon agreed with the decision to kill Daenerys because he didn't kill
He
Jon.
was suffering.
Okay. Interesting.
He was suffering internally?
Oh, didn't you see him?
Why? He was on fire.
He's like
had
me.
really bad heartburn.
But didn't kill
From all
Jon.
the children he ate.
He could have. He couldn't have.
But didn't.
He wouldn't have burned.
Okay, so what are the comments saying about Danny's death?
Hey,
She did have it coming.
she did. By the way, there are spoilers in this, in case it wasn't obvious.
I mean, come on, people, are you kidding me? What are
Jon
people
served the
saying?
people, Dany slaughtered the people. The Night King should have attacked the south first, then come back north. Bran Stark is king. Oh, wait, I'm not
Is this
seeing...
an episode recap?
Yes, an episode recap.
This comment is an episode recap.
Cynthia Torres says they killed everybody too fast. Night King, Cersei, Dany.
Yeah, that's definitely like
yeah.
a recurring theme in this season. I think we can all agree on that we've started a lot of these amazing storylines. The Night King has been happening since season 1, the White Walkers. So it just kind of feels like everything was cut short, especially the Dany storyline. This episode was an hour and a half, or almost an hour and a half, and it felt so long.
And boring.
It did feel really boring. I felt like they cut Dany right at the beginning, which, opened up the possibility to finding a new king or queen, etc. But it still felt like, oh my god,
I actually thought they cut it short last week when they killed off Jaime and Cersei because I didn't actually I wasn't sure they were dead. I know that's stupid of me, but whatever.
I think a lot of people felt that
They
way.
could get out of it. I mean, honestly, you didn't see them.
Yeah, I thought for a second
Yeah.
that Tyrion was gonna just like that, wake up scene
Yeah,
kind of thing that was
same.
gonna happen. But
Same.
I mean, it's good that it didn't happen to be
Dead.
perfect.
So I thought the cutting things short and started last week because
It's been this whole
I know.
season.
Well,
This
even
whole
with
season.
them, without them in the last episode, it was kind of like, oh,
I think
you're
that-
already cutting it down.
Yeah,
That character.
I think that somebody that all of the fans and everybody who loves the show can agree is that this last season felt rushed.
Yeah, definitely.
It was.
only
Yeah.
6 episodes, and yes, granted, they did add, about a half an hour to like the run times of the episodes themselves. It still felt really, really rushed. And what I liked about the beginning of this episode was that it was very quiet. It felt more like Game of Thrones. We had Tyrion walking through the wreckage.
Yeah.
He found Jaime. He found Cersei. He was crying. It felt emotional. I felt it in my heart. And then it was like, oh, we're back to that. We're back to the too quick, to cutting stuff too quickly.
My favorite scene was actually Tyrion. It was when Tyrion was talking to Jon in the cell, and he was, he was basically giving a speech to Jon, but it was really kind of to the viewers where he was saying, you guys cheered Dany on, and she killed all these people because, they were baddies, so it's okay. But where did you really think that was going to go? And it was great because, I still think Daenerys' character arc was really rushed in the last episode, but it did a little bit of work at kind of like retrospectively, creating expectations for, it was kind of inevitable that this would happen.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I liked it when Daenerys brought back in breaking the wheel, and suddenly you're realizing, and everyone's realizing, when she was talking about breaking the wheel, we were all for it. But now we realize, but this is what breaking the wheel
Yeah.
actually looks like.
See, that's why I think this whole thing felt very satisfying because I don't think any of the plot points in this season came out of nowhere, right? Because Tyrion had to remind the audience about the whole thing that Bran had to go through to come here, but Bran isn't necessarily a Deus Ex Machina at that point because he kind of worked hard for it if you think about it. He
just sits there.
okay, he fell from a building, had to run away from
I'm
his.
joking. I'm very joking.
And he's gonna find Drogon. He's gonna find Drogon.
Oh yeah, he's just gonna find.
We're never
He's just
gonna
gonna
see
be
it.
warging into
Maybe.
the dragon
The
for the rest of the
warging
time.
thing feels like very much also a thing that we just kind of cut off. We never get to see Bran warg into anything
Maybe
cool.
he's gonna walk into Drogon. We're
Except,
just
for
never gonna
shows.
see it.
That's
never see
the
it.
other show they're making.
Yeah, look,
They better not.
Oh, it's How to Walk Your Dragon.
How to Warrior Dragon.
TM.
This discussion about breaking the wheel, there was a scene that kind of struck me as a very obvious symbolism for this theme was when Drogon was melting the Iron Throne. And like, I know we all have a little bit different feelings about this, but I felt it was so cheesy. He was like, I'm gonna finish her good work, and then like, you know, melts the Iron Throne.
I thought you were gonna mention the scene where like Drogon's wings kind of expanded and it looked like Daenerys.
Oh, that was so
yes.
cool.
That was
so
very cool.
You
But
thought
also,
it was
like that was
cool?
cheesy.
It was
So
amazing.
That was
cheesy.
cheesy.
I loved it.
You
Oh my
thought that
God.
was more cheesy than him literally melting the Iron Throne
I
and looking
did.
at John being like,
Not more
I did
cheesy,
not find
but
that
also
cheesy. I loved it.
Yeah.
the scene with the art.
I loved it because Drogon was so annoyed, like he was hurting that his mom was dead. So you know, he like kind of lost it, like I did.
What did he do?
You know? Yeah. That's
Yeah, I think he was destroying a throne because he's like, this throne started all of this.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
didn't
what
think
got
it was
my
easy.
mommy
I think
killed.
dragons are smarter than they seem.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
This just seemed like a weird little plot point.
I personally, I loved it, and when he flew away with her.
Yeah, you hated it all, but you loved that part that I hated.
Well, for me, it was just like, I mean, I loved the dragon since the beginning, and Drogon especially, but seeing him just like fly away with Dany,
That was beautiful.
it was beautiful, but in my little heart, I was like hoping that he was gonna bring her somewhere where she was gonna come back to life.
And he was gonna do like dragon CPR on her, like.
Set her on fire and maybe she
No.
comes back to life.
I don't know.
But I felt like it was that part of it was a fitting end for Daenerys. She was, you know, going off into the, I wouldn't say sunset because it was quite cloudy.
Ashy.
You know, with Drogon, with, you know, her child, and I felt that was really great.
You know, I thought they might do a thing where the dragon like burns her, you know, and then maybe like, you know how the dragons are born from the
fire,
flame?
yeah.
So like maybe like a phoenix type thing.
That's what kind of
Yeah.
like I was hoping for, but it did not happen.
Well, all right, so we have some mixed opinions about this. Let's move on to the next major plot point, which is Bran being, you know, named king. And they have the council assembled, everybody's sort of trying to decide what the next step will be. And Daenerys did succeed in breaking the wheel in that respect. So what do you guys think about this Bran twist?
Boring.
Same.
I liked it.
Oh.
Okay. I liked how much of almost like a realistic approach that they took in terms of like from a political science standpoint, which is my degree, so that's why I'm like digging this so hard.
But you know,
brag.
realism is exactly what I want from my show with dragons.
Okay, but Game of Thrones has been selling itself for being the realistic fantasy show for like the past what, like 9 years, 10 years? How long has it been?
I roll.
I stopped counting.
It's 2011.
Jesus. Well, yeah, so in that sense, like, it made sense, because, like, they laughed at the, hey, let's do a democracy idea, but democracy among the lords, that's not necessarily a horrible idea, and I'm pretty sure that's what the Magna Carta was back when the United Kingdom, or Britain, I guess,
Ooh.
decided to do their kings. So,
Jem with the smart takes.
what's the future of Westeros is going to be like this until one of the 6 kingdoms inevitably decides, hey, maybe I should be king.
I wouldn't have put it past them to like invent democracy and then like flash forward to like now and have like the American election be like, look what we did.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
So,
There
what are
was-
the comments
That was
saying
fantastic.
about Bran being king?
What are the comments?
Is anybody talking about that, or does nobody care?
They're not super huge fans of it, I don't think.
No. Neither am I. Honestly, I felt like there was kind of that weird moment where they were asking him whether or not he would accept this power, and he was like, kind of like, well, what else did I come here for? It was kind of like when the Night King smiled at Daenerys.
like a cowboy.
When he was like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just kind of like such a
At
cheesy
least
moment.
Bran found a little bit of personality at the end there.
Where?
It was an annoying personality.
Just a little bit of
but I see
personality, a
what
little
you
bit of
mean.
humor.
In the comments I see, instead of Bran, the people are obviously talking about who they wanted to be the king.
Yeah,
Okay.
who
And
would
I'm
they say?
seeing a lot of Gendrys here.
Gendry.
Gendrys here. I'm sorry.
Gendry,
Yeah,
really?
Melissa Clark says, I wanted
Fancy.
Gendry to be king. He has a right to the throne since Dany made him the lawful son. And yeah, Robert Baratheon was the king,
Yes.
which he stole from the Targs, I guess. So yeah, that was the whole line of succession had become a mess at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely John muddied those waters a little bit. So the next kind of point that I want to hit is that last kind of sequence where we see all of the Stark children going off to fulfill their destinies. And we talked a little bit about this before, Jon heading north of the Wall with the wildlings. And what did you guys think of that?
First off, what is the wall guarding anymore? I don't understand. There's a
Nothing.
big hole in it in the east, and they're all friends with the free folk now. So
Yeah. I mean, I think.
What are any of the walls guarding?
Oh,
I don't-
let's get
what
into
are
that.
walls? What are walls?
What are walls?
I'm just here for political intrigue.
Well, the Night's Watch had become like sort of like a prison colony of sorts for the Seven Kingdoms. So now it's literally nothing but that. Now that the
just cold
the White
Australia.
Walkers have died, I guess. Yeah, just they send them up to the cold to just like live there and then die there eventually.
Yeah.
Did you guys-
That was depressing.
Did you guys feel satisfied with Jon's, where he ended up?
I was satisfied that he finally patted Ghost.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Okay, I said in one of our breakdowns, I was like, somebody pet that somebody boop that goddamn
And they
Snoop.
heard you.
And they heard me,
Yeah.
and when he scratched
They couldn't
his lip,
afford it.
Ooh.
Did
They
you hear
could
that?
They could afford Drogon being like,
Yeah.
Danny,
Well, they
are you
spent
dead?
all that
Are you
money
dead?
on the other
But they can't get a little scratch? Like, come on. I was like, that was the most satisfying moment for me.
That saved
Without
like
his
the whole
ear.
season, I think.
Oh no,
His
his
ear.
little earrings.
God.
So
Oh,
cute.
this one comment. Tyrone Smith says, "Did anyone catch the green grass growing by the wall? Will it be green now?"
Oh, I didn't see
I didn't
that.
notice.
I did. I
And-
did
well, aren't you
notice
smart?
that there was a little like sprout coming out of the snow.
Oh, that's
Baby
cool.
Groot?
Oh, maybe.
Well, we were actually talking about that this episode kind of, and this whole season, embraced the kind of Marvelisms, which is
Yes.
something that somebody on Reddit had said, where we have like these
Fan
kind of
servicey moments?
funny fan servicey moments where, someone will like kind of look at the camera and be like,
Yeah, like in the first episode, that was one of the things like that really got to me in the first episode of this season. And it's just like the back and forth, and it's just like, what do dragons eat? And then Daenerys goes, whatever they want. And I was just like, that's something Tony Stark would say, not Dany. I mean, I guess maybe Dany at this point, but but I don't know. I got used to it, and now we're here.
so that little conversation where they're having their first small council, Bran's small council,
God, yeah.
and Bronn is just being Bronn and being a little bit of a pain in the ass. That felt kind of like a Marvel moment.
Yes,
right?
100%.
Yeah, that was like the post-credit scene where they're eating falafel or something.
Shawarma.
Shawarma, right.
So what are the comments saying?
Well, let's see. Does Jon burn? Why did Drogon leave him? We kind of talked about that, but we don't know if Jon burns or not.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of waiting for Drogon to throw that fire at Jon. I don't know for a better word. And I really wanted to see if he was unburned.
Yeah.
Well, he's
I thought that
unburned in
was
the sense
weird,
that
and
no
Jon
one
just-
set him on fire.
Yeah, that he is unburnt, technically.
Yeah. What else?
What else are people saying?
He can die, right? Like he's
Yeah,
already been
he can
dead.
die. He
He
died.
can die again.
Yeah,
No, I know, but
Again,
like,
yeah,
I mean,
he
what
died
is
again.
dead may never die.
No,
Oh,
he
boy.
could die.
Oh, Lord.
Because Beric died a lot of
so
times.
I really didn't know Yara was still alive.
Oh yeah, she just went back to the
Yeah.
islands to hang out until the storm was over.
Yeah.
Sure.
She went to kind of guard them.
Yes,
Sure.
take them back for the queen.
And I loved that moment between her and the Stark sisters where she was kind of like, well, Dany's my queen and we should take care of Jon. And Arya's kind of like, talk about him one more time, I'm gonna cut your throat. Like, it felt like, yes, Arya defending her brother. Yara was like, oh, shoot.
I felt very bad for the Tully uncle.
Oh, that was
Oh, it was
fun.
so
That's
funny.
funny.
It was like the most entertaining part.
Yeah, he had his please clap moment. If you remember that Jeb Bush thing.
Please
Had a video
clap.
of him, please clap. That was just so sad.
When he like backed up and hit into the chair, and everyone was like, just please sit down.
That was very.
That was a comedic moment in the episode.
That guy just needed to shut up. He was being very white man.
He was extremely annoying. What else do
I'm
people
just
have
hot
to
takes
say about
today.
this
It's great. I
episode?
love the hot takes. What else?
Oh, can we talk about Grey Worm versus Jon in this
No, I
episode?
just didn't.
That was like really a lot of tension between
Yeah.
them.
There was, eh?
I feel
Of
like
course.
Grey Worm's character arc sort of was parallel to Daenerys's in this season.
Yeah.
Wherein he sort of became this like ruthless, angry, whatever you want to call it. and him and Jon were like not getting along in this episode.
Yeah, I thought they were going to duke it out, actually. I thought he was going to appear to protect Dany or something, but that never happened.
Even when he got on the ship at the end of the episode, I was like, what's going to happen here? Maybe he's going to like capture Jon and then execute him or something. But then he didn't. He went to North.
At least he went to North,
Sorry, but he should have.
He should have?
Yeah.
Okay, Jon Snow hater over here.
I was never a Jon Snow hater until this episode.
Because he killed Dany. But you didn't think that that's what he needed to do.
No.
So wait, you thought Dany should live?
Yeah.
To the end of the episode?
Like forever.
Dany would have burnt everything else that was left on
She was
Westeros
gonna
and
go
elsewhere.
and burn everything.
I don't
You don't care? You're like, I don't know them. I don't care about them. All I care about is Dany.
Here's a question from... Why do I do this to myself?
Okay.
Daenerys? Yeah, I guess. Do you think that Drogon suggested that it was the desire for the throne that killed Daenerys and Jon was just a catalyst, which is why he destroyed... How smart are dragons?
Yeah,
Very smart.
I
You're
feel like,
describing them with many smarts.
yeah, I feel like that smartness is just appearing in this episode, though.
No. Also, when, for example, when Dany was crying because Jorah died, and Drogon comes and kind of cuddles her, like he feels.
But
Yeah,
is
but
that
your
more
dog can do
instinctual?
that.
Is
Like a
that
dog
more
can know you're
instinctual
sad,
than
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I felt like maybe this episode, it was like very much like he was like, Dany died because of her pursuit of the throne, so I have to burn it. Like,
Yeah, he made
would
a
they really
political
have the
statement there.
capacity to do that?
I don't know. I just think he was pissed. I don't think he was like, oh, poetic, like he melted. No, I just saw it as he was pissed because they killed his mom.
Yeah.
And he just like, what does Dragon do?
No,
Fire.
I think he did it on purpose. I think he destroyed the Iron Throne because he knew that was the reason. Yeah, we've heard before that dragons are really smart. I don't know, is it Tyrion or someone tells us that dragons are super intelligent?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
that's very. Possible.
I mean, dragons don't exist, so they can be as smart as we feel like they should. That's what the writers said when they were writing this episode.
They were like, let's make him real smart. Speaking about Tyrion, Tyrion had a huge role in this episode.
I know. I feel like he was the main.
Yeah.
Well, he was the first. I noticed this. He was the first name in the credits, and I was like, "That's interesting."
Yeah.
Right at the beginning, and it made sense.
Tyrion is the luckiest unlucky man alive
Yes.
in Westeros.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. I don't know how does he survive all of these things? He's either like much better at manipulating people that he lets on, or people are for whatever reason very likely to listen to everything he says, or he's just like straight up very lucky.
Well, sometimes he just gets knocked out
Yeah, that's the
early in battle.
Blackwater, right?
Early on in battles,
Yeah.
yeah, twice in 2 different battles. He just gets knocked out, and yeah.
But what's something that just kind of struck me is that I feel like there's parallels between Bran and Tyrion's characters, wherein they both showed incredible resilience in the face of, essentially what boils down to like, a physical disability, right? So I think that Tyrion kind of came out on top in this episode, if I may say.
Honestly, we could safely say that Tyrion has won the Game of Thrones.
Oh.
Bran wasn't playing.
Because he
Bran wasn't
maneuvered
playing, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bran wasn't playing, so he doesn't count. Also, who chose Bran to be the king?
Tyrion.
Tyrion chose Bran to be the king.
Oh, could you guys explain to me what happened at the small council when he was pulling and pushing all the chairs? Why was he doing
He
that?
was just fiddling.
He was just
He was
trying
just
to make
fiddling?
them look neat, and
He
then
likes moving chairs.
and then Bronn came in and like messed the thing up, and he got like very pissed at it.
I don't want to spoil our top 10 Tyrion moments, but there's one of his moments is moving a chair.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It's like his little statement, He's like, I'm gonna move this chair. But yeah, I felt like he had so much screen time in this episode, and as someone who like hasn't always loved Tyrion, I hate to say that because I know he's definitely like a fan favorite. I think in the last season, you're looking at me like you hate me, but that's fine. In the last season, he had like, I don't know, he felt a little bit annoying. He felt like he was always kind of blocking Daenerys from doing what she wanted to do.
Which was killing people, specifically murdering
He
people.
definitely needed to do that, and I saw that in this season, so he redeemed himself in my eyes. But this like last episode just showed that he seemed to have like the most character growth of anybody.
True. Yeah, because he lost. The only thing he had was his wit and his faith in his intelligence, and he lost it, essentially. He lost confidence in his ability to outthink everybody for a while there.
And
Yeah,
when is the
true.
last time he had wine? Honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
give that man
true.
a glass of
Get a
wine
glass
and
of
give
wine
that
right
dog
now.
a boop on the snoot.
God,
Give me a glass of wine. I need it right now.
Are there any questions?
There
or
are
anything?
so many questions, and
Okay.
I'm going through them.
Shall we try?
All right, so here's another one from Troy Jimerson. Why no Jack and Hagar? Old gods, Lord of Light, Drowned God, Faith of the Seven, which was real, is what it says. But like, I guess, how come the various gods and deities that were, basically explained to be real in this in the world of Westeros,
Yeah.
how come they did not play a bigger role in the end?
Well, the Lord of Light played a pretty big role in this
This
final
is true.
season, especially in the Battle of Winterfell.
Yeah.
However, I think that a lot of people wanted him to have a bigger role and maybe appear in physical form, which I think would have been super cool.
No, I
No?
think that would
I
have
see her in the
broken the
corner.
show. I'm trying to imagine, like, you mean like when they show Zeus like in clouds with a
It's
robe
not-
and he
I
just
hope not
steps
that.
in and
You're
I
getting
just,
caught up in
no,
the detail of
no.
it. Like for him to just anyway, whatever. But yeah, there was a lot of storylines that did not get explored in this season.
Yeah, and like a lot of people, I think, are very angry is the word I'm going to use, about how like Azor Ahai, the prince that was promised, never necessarily truly showed up, or because like it's supposed to be like a burning sword. So we had Beric Dondarrion who had a burning sword, but it wasn't quite Azor Ahai. And then we had Stannis who got killed off camera, and then he was just like setting his camera. He was just setting his sword on fire, and then everyone was like, "Oh, Jon is the prince that was promised." And then it was Arya who killed the Night King, so that wasn't quite the case. And now Jon is a nobody.
Jon is a wildling at this
Good,
point.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they're going for the realistic ending.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's about like they're all different variations on those prophecies in the world anyway. So there was no one correct fulfillment, and so I think it's all about history and how things get garbled, and it was fulfilled in a sense, just in lots of different senses and not to the letter. I think. I mean, there was still someone who plunged his sword into his true love's heart, so that was kind of Azor Ahai of John.
But he didn't get the
Azor
glory
Ahai.
that it was promised.
No.
Anybody else asking any good questions here?
I saw one. Oh, if you, I don't remember who asked this. I'm sorry, but if you could have rewrite one part of this episode, how would you rewrite it?
I think we already know the answer to that.
You start, since you're like
Yeah,
very,
but-
very hard to read.
But yes, poker face all the way. No, I think everybody knows by now that if I could change anything, it would be Dany not dying.
That was my favorite part.
So you
true.
felt that she should have.
You are my least favorite person now.
No,
That is Jon Snow. What the hell? So you felt she should have had a redemption arc in this last episode.
Yeah, or maybe just rule as a mad queen.
honestly,
Yeah, just
that would
like-
have been a satisfying
Yeah.
end as well. Like,
I would have loved that like dark ending, just like her out of her mind, just like ruling in fear.
Yeah,
Rebuilding the wall and such.
I felt like we never got to see her really be like mad.
Exactly.
Like we saw her burning down. No, but physically,
No.
like
Okay.
physically, we saw her kind of get there when she was about to burn down King's Landing. But then they never showed her while she was on the dragon. And then after she's had time to calm down from that ordeal, she kind of comes out and very calmly addresses the crowd. But we never got to see her like go crazy like her
Exactly.
father. What about you, Nick? What would you change about this episode?
I want Jon on the throne. However, I also, but part of me does, because I think that whole, secretly he's a Targaryen plot deserved something bigger to come out of it than
That
just
is
to make Daenerys angry. However, a part of me does accept that it would have been too neat, and to avoid the neat kind of ending, it was nice to send him off north of the wall, and it was bittersweet,
yeah.
I felt like that was absolutely the perfect ending for Jon. And I don't know if this is a hot take, but Jon was so boring in this season. All he did was be like, "You're my queen," and just like let
I should've made a
Daenerys
drinking game,
do
man.
whatever she wanted. And when he finally, had the courage to stop her, it was kind of like, okay, he's sort of fulfilled his purpose. And I feel like purpose is a theme in this entire episode. And to bring it back to the last few minutes of the episode where we see the 3 Stark children, other than Bran, going off to fulfill, their personal prophecies or whatever, where Sansa becomes queen in the north, and then Arya goes off to kind of conquer new worlds, and then Jon goes back to being a wildling. I felt like that was a really satisfying ending for a character who wanted nothing to do with the power, right?
Somebody in the comments is saying, Raul Ramos is saying Sansa is now the next Cersei, and I think that's interesting. I could see that.
I think Sansa has the capacity to be manipulative, but not to that degree, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
She was trained by Cersei.
Do you think she'd be a compassionate ruler or just a clever ruler?
I think she's gonna be a compassionate ruler. I have a feeling. That's also something I wanted to say when you were saying that Tyrion got like that development of character and stuff. I think Sansa went through so much as well since the very first season. So if somebody I wanted to survive was definitely Sansa after everything she went through. So that was I think the only moment where I was like truly happy when she was crowned
The
like
Queen of the North.
Yeah, Queen of the North.
Yes.
Yeah, I love Robb Stark. What about you? What would you change?
Why
in
would
the,
you open
in
that
the last,
wound?
in the last episode?
What would I?
You loved it.
Hey, I already said I was very satisfied with this, right? So
Okay.
I don't think I would change a lot.
All right.
I think it went well.
No, but if you have to change something,
I have to change something.
you have to.
We'll get back to you, Rebecca.
Get
What
back
do you
to me,
think?
yeah.
I don't know, man. This is tough. I thought the ending to Jon's story was a bit disappointing. I think. I think I would have wanted something a bit more epic for him.
Yeah, Team Jon.
Like an epic death?
I don't know.
Oh!
Honestly, but no, like I liked the way he killed Dany. It was the only moment you have to admit that everybody in the room gasped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like the one benefit to watching it in a group, which I don't normally do,
Yeah.
is that you saw how everybody reacted in the moment at that. So I thought that was the most effective moment in the episode. Whether or not you liked it, that's a different story.
No, but I kind of felt like I kind of thought that was gonna happen, that Jon was gonna kill Dany, but I did not expect it like that. So that was surprising. I thought it was gonna be like in a more epic way, or you know,
That
like
was pretty epic.
no. I thought it was like it caught us like just off guard.
In
That's
the-
why everyone kind of like gasped in the room.
It was like a lover's stab.
Yeah.
Lover stab.
Right through the heart.
Shakespearean.
Yeah, very
Exactly, Shakespeare.
And she also died in the same setting as the one from her vision.
Yes.
Season 2. We all thought that was snow, but it was just straight up ash.
Yeah. It's funny because in an interview, Kit Harington said that this episode was either disappointing or epic, one of those. He said it as if they're interchangeable, which I clean up. But a lot of people thought, oh, he means that it's just not a good episode. But his character arc is kind of epic and disappointing in the
Can I say?
Yeah.
in
Can I
the
just
sense that
say?
it's bittersweet.
I've seen a lot of Kit Harington interviews, and he's just bitter that his character didn't do.
No, they all are.
sounds like that.
There's a video on YouTube, and it's just like 3 minutes of the cast of Game of Thrones ripping on the final
But
season.
like Kit Harington is particularly bitter, and in fact they've even used his bitterness for like some marketing clout in both those like behind the scenes videos, like where everyone is talking and Kit is just like very angry at something. He's angry that he didn't get to kill the Night
Maybe it's
King.
just a
Yeah,
character.
he didn't get to kill the Night
Yeah.
King
Pulling a
or sit on the
Christian Bale.
throne.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right.
I loved Arya killing the Night King.
Yeah, me too.
I
Oh!
loved it. I think
Ooh,
it
I
was
didn't like
perfect. And for some, like I thought maybe I had the theory that she might kill Dany because the
They did.
brown, the green, and the blue eyes.
They were pushing for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wait,
but
what
I
did
think
that friggin' horse mean then? The white horse from last time?
Nothing. It's just like, oh hey, there's a horse. I'll just ride that to go.
But there
out.
was also it also had to do with like a biblical passage, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it had something to do with the fact that Arya was getting on a horse, and she who mounts the horse is named Death.
Oh,
Right,
yeah,
so,
the
so
white horse,
I think it was just
the four
kind of like
horsemen.
symbolism for her character arc, which kind of led nowhere.
Yeah.
That you're reminding me of, but yeah.
And also, like within the lore of Song of Fire and Ice as well, there's like a pale horse, pale mare, which is the name of dysentery in Essos, apparently. So,
Sorry, guys.
like dysentery,
It's called what?
pale mare, as in a white horse, because like the
Pale
person who
mare.
brought it there
So
was
she
riding
was
a pale mare.
riding
Anyways.
dysentery.
She is dysentery.
That's so meta.
Okay, here's another question
Go for it.
Let's get off the dysentery talk.
from Zeppelin. What do you think of the book of Song of Ice and Fire? Which I mean, they're referring to the fact that it made its on-screen debut in this episode. How do you guys feel about that?
Felt very on the nose.
It was very on the nose.
Yeah, it felt a little bit
It was-
like one of those Marvel moments where it was like,
Get it?
I thought it was more Lord of the Ringsy, like there and
It
back
was,
again. You
yeah.
know? Yeah. I didn't
Fair
mind
enough.
it. I liked it.
I mean, it's happened in. I mean, you guys know I'm a Stephen King person, and it happens in Stephen King, and I like it in Stephen King, so I guess I can't rip on it here, but it felt weird here.
Yeah, and I always thought that Sam was George R. R. Martin's self-insert. He's like like a smart man. He's not a very much of a fighter, but he tells great stories.
So humble.
Yeah, and now he's bringing the book that one of his
Oh,
maesters
sad.
wrote,
Yeah.
and
How did Tyrion not get in the book though?
that's so sad. That was so sad. That was like the saddest moment. That was like genuinely
Yeah,
sad.
it
What is that?
Speaking of books, when Brienne was writing Jaime's story,
Oh, that was.
I thought she was gonna write that she was knocked up.
Me too. Yeah.
I thought for sure she would write that.
I thought she was gonna write something
and then
vile,
Brienne of
but-
Tarth had his baby, and I was like, yes, but no.
I have an issue with the whole like Brienne of Tarth, and I think that in this episode they sort of fixed it for me. But in the last episode, or the last two episodes, I should say, our last exposure to Brienne of Tarth was when Jaime was like running away and she was crying and she was in shambles, and it felt very uncharacteristic of someone who's been super strong, resilient. She almost killed the Hound. Like, she's a bad bitch, and to see her crying like that over a man just felt like kind of like, come on,
Yeah.
she deserves better than that.
She didn't have a minute to fall apart over a man. Everybody can have.
Yeah, but when that's the last you see, or so
No,
we
okay,
thought
no.
that was going to
Yes,
be of
I
her
agree.
character, it was pretty frustrating. So I felt like seeing her again in this episode kind of changed that for me, and her finishing Jaime's story as a good friend and saying goodbye felt like a better ending to their story together.
And he died protecting his queen.
Yeah, which is,
nicest
I
way
guess,
anyone
what
could say
he
that, yeah.
wanted to do all along, but
He didn't do a very good job.
no, he didn't protect her from the rebel.
I don't think you can protect. You can. He did his best.
All right, guys, let's take one last question before we say goodbye.
Okay.
Find a good one.
His horrible episode of question. No.
Hey, while I find a question, talk about Sir Podrick, who finally got knighted.
Oh yeah.
I
Good for
love
him. Yeah.
Pod. Pod was just like
Pod's my favorite person to bring up because I'm always like, is that the one who did the thing in the brothel? It is, right?
What did he do?
Yeah.
That's
What did he do?
I've never won
know.
Unsolved
We'll
Game of
never know.
Thrones mystery.
Yeah, I think that should be a top 10 list. Unsolved
Yeah.
Game of Thrones mysteries #1.
that's
What did
number one,
Pod
yeah.
do?
That's what you guys are doing tomorrow.
And didn't he in the episode before the Battle of Winterfell like walk off with two women?
Yeah, he did.
And he was like,
He did.
"You already know what I'm doing."
Yeah.
Maybe he was singing to them.
Oh, maybe that's what he did.
That'd be so disappointing.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that.
Yeah.
So do you have anything?
All right. JC asks, who had the saddest death this season?
Missandei.
Oh
Really?
yeah.
Yeah, Missandei.
He broke my heart.
I mean, Jamie and Cersei, but I wasn't sad. But
I was sad.
it's sad because I don't know. It still bothered me though.
Whenever
That whole thing.
whenever Cersei has like a humanizing moment,
Yeah.
I feel terribly sad for her.
Yeah, me
Like
too.
that, in the books and in the show, like when she had to go through the whole walk of shame,
Yeah.
I felt so bad for
Yeah.
her. Like no one, like whatever your crimes, no one should have to go through that kind of treatment.
Yeah.
In the same way, no one should die knowing that their entire city is being burnt to crisp by a
And
dragon.
the fact that she was pregnant also.
She
Two
was
different
pregnant.
things.
I mean, to be fair, I don't think that Cersei really cared about the people of King's Landing. Like, I don't think that she really ever.
No, she cared
them.
about herself and her family throughout
Yeah.
the thing, which is
Still sad.
yeah.
Yeah, I think personally the saddest death this season was Jorah.
Oh!
Yes! And
I
no
felt
one-
like Jorah's death, and like obviously
If I had
Lyanna
begun
Mormont
to
was
call us
also
out
really
for that.
sad, but mostly epic.
Epic.
But I feel like Jorah's death. Jorah is someone that I like have loved as a character for all of the seasons, and the fact that he like loved Daenerys so much and she could never love him back, but he was still always he stayed
Why?
by her side.
He's
he was
hot.
he was loyal and he did waver, but I don't know. It just felt like he died doing what he wanted to do ultimately, which was protect his queen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
So that was
if
sad
he
for
could have chosen how to die, that would have been it. I think.
Yeah.
I have to admit that I did cry when he died.
Me
Like, when
too. That was
Dany
the only
like,
one that I cried.
crying over him and stuff, and then Drogon comes. Like that whole scene was a mess.
The closest I've come to crying this season was when they burned his body.
Oh,
when he
that
died.
was terrible.
That was
too.
the whole funeral
Yeah.
scene.
Ed too hit me hard. I don't know. I feel like Ed was like
Oh,
the
yeah?
first death this season. Am I crazy? Am I not remembering? Anyway, Ed was like when he was protecting Sam and then he just went down. It was like, oh, that one hurt.
And now
that one hurt.
And now his watch has ended.
Oh, that seems like a moment we have to leave on
so
now.
Zells.
And I think that says it all. Thank you guys so much for watching all season long. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.
We still have a few content coming out, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Few contents.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.